Hi everybody, so as you may or may not know, I am doing a wrap-up for every 5 books that I read this year. So I have 3 young adult contemporary books to talk about. The first is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This one is about a girl named Natasha and a boy named Daniel who meet in New York, and during the course of one day, they fall in love. The book is meant to explore the whole trope and the whole notion of love at first sight, and Natasha is reluctant about it. Daniel is trying to get her to open her mind to it. And it was actually done really well. I personally did not buy into it. I just can't bring myself to the understanding that that's possible. However, Nicola Yoon has the skill to construct the book in a way that surely convinces you of that. But more importantly, this book deals with issues of race and immigration. Natasha is a Jamaican-American girl, and she and her family are about to be deported at the end of this day. So she's also spending the day trying to put measures in place to stop that. Daniel, on the other hand, is the son of Korean immigrants, and he is a legitimate US citizen, but he is dealing with a lot of pressures from his parents and his family. So I really liked all of the issues that were kind of woven into the main story. The only issue I had with it is that I don't find it to be that memorable. This is not a book that stuck with me for some reason, and I don't know why that is, but overall it was just a really good read and I highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book shook me to my core. I had to nail myself to the ground to avoid the shookness that this book induced. I had to hold down my head because Angie Thomas was just snatching. She was just like, this is just one of the best books that I've read in a very, very long time. So if you didn't know, this is about Star, who's coming home from a party one day with her childhood best friend Khalil. Khalil and Star are pulled over by a police officer, a white police officer, who then shoots Khalil in cold blood for no reason, unarmed. So this book is very much a product of the political climate in the United States now, especially where race, police brutality, and Black Lives Matter is concerned. It follows Star as she tries to find her voice, as she finds her place in this whole thing as a witness to something like that, and how she begins to understand why speaking out against these things are important. And the book is so much more than just that. It follows Star as she lives between 2 worlds. She goes to this very fancy, rich, white prep school, but she's from a lower class African American neighborhood. It talks about code switching, it talks about interracial relationships, it has one of the best family and friendship dynamics that I've ever seen in a book before, and a cute relationship to go along with all of that as well. I know that a lot of people have been a bit hesitant because they feel as though as if this book is not receiving warranted criticism, as it deals with a topic that is very sensitive. However, I can say objectively speaking, this is a well executed book. While the writing is not the best, I will admit that the story, the characters, and the relationship between the characters are completely worth your time. I gave this book 5 stars because it deserved nothing less than it, and if you want, you could go and check out my review that I did for this and this together. The next young adult contemporary is one that I recently finished, and it is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. So this one is about 2 Indian American teenagers, Dimple and Rishi. They're both sent to this coding technology type summer camp, and their parents actually purposefully sends them there so that they can meet each other in hopes that they would eventually arrange a marriage. Rishi actually knows about it beforehand, so he's all for it. But Dimple, on the other hand, does not know about it, and she's not keen on it when she finds out. So it follows these 2 as they kind of develop a relationship with each other, but are also grappling with their interests and with their desires to move forward in life. I loved the characters, I loved the story, I loved the way that there was this kind of push and pull between your traditional values and duty as well as your desires and your career and all of that kind of jazz. I will say that the book does not come without its flaws. The writing as well could have been a lot better. The story played out in a way that I think it should not have. This was supposed to be like a technology camp where they're developing an app. But there was this really random talent show in the middle of everything, and the focus of the book was more on the talent show than it was on the app. And don't get me wrong, the talent show aspect of it was lit, but I think I would have liked to see a little bit more of the coding and the app development part of the story. Also, while I really like Dimple and Rishi as characters, I felt like Rishi was a bit too perfect. He didn't seem to have any character flaws, which was kind of annoying at some point, but I got over it because, I mean, the relationship between them is just so cute. So enjoyment-wise, this was like a 4-star book, but objectively speaking, it's more like a 3.5 star. So I settled on the ever savior rating of 3.75 stars. I did read one adult literary fiction type novel, and that was The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This one is a collection of short stories all following the Nigerian and Nigerian-American experience. I feel like short story collections are the Britney Spears of the literary world. They're still there, they're still selling, but like nobody talks about them and they're kind of irrelevant at the same time. The thing I like about them is that you leave them more conscious of the themes and the issues that the author was trying to explore. With a full-length novel, you get more attached to the characters, you get more attached to the story, and those underlying underlying like narratives tend to be peripheralized sometimes, but with these sorts of short story collections, that's definitely not the case. This book explored issues of identity, nationality, culture, even religion at some point, a lot of stuff about sexuality and gender, and it explores how all of those different things play out differently in these very different situations, because people are different and they live different lives, but these very same things kind of intersect in their lives in different ways, and I just use the word different a whole lot of times. There were a few issues with this book. There were some stories that were a bit like, repetitive. There was like about at least 2 or 3 stories where there was this woman who moves to America to meet her husband, and like she doesn't like her husband anymore and she falls for somebody else. And there were a couple of stories that also felt a bit disjointed from the rest, especially the last one. But overall, individually and collectively, these stories will leave you resonated with something, and I loved it, so I gave it 4 stars. And the final book I have to talk about is a non-fiction. It's called Geography, Ideas and Profile by Danny Dorling and Carl Lee. This one is a geography textbook, which sounds so exciting, I know, right? This is actually coming out in September. I received an advance e-copy along with a few other colleagues from school. We're doing this extracurricular thing where we were asked to review the book for the author, like from a Caribbean youth perspective. Generally, when people think geography, they tend to think either geology, the study of rocks, or cartography, the study of maps. But in reality, geography is so much more. It is basically the study of the world. It's an interdisciplinary subject that incorporates economics, political science, geology, cartography, biology, all sorts of other things. And this book definitely does capture the multifaceted nature of that discipline. The issues that I had with it is that the structure was a bit off. It tried to be a very short book just to give you a general gist of human and social geography. However, there was so much specific examples that it just felt very rushed. It should have been a bit longer, I feel, and there were certain parts where it kind of lacked analysis. But overall, it wasn't bad, so I gave it 3 stars. And yeah, that's going to be it for this wrap up. In the comments down below, I'd like to know if you've read any of these books and if you had any thoughts on them. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.